Good afternoon. I hope you are having a great Thursday. The time now is 12:30. I'm Julie Broughton. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here on News 6 Extra, getting caught up on your news and weather headlines. And by the way, we are expecting more storms this afternoon. Some of those could become strong. We'll break down your full forecast in just moments. We'll also talk about the first tropical storm of the season. It's not in the Atlantic, but something to note. We are watching a storm in the Pacific that we will just more of an interesting note in the history book. So we will talk more about that for you coming up in just a few minutes. But first, we have designated this week Hurricane Week here at News 6, and that means we are helping you get prepared as we head into hurricane season, which starts Sunday, June 1st, and lasts through November 30th. And you may have noticed over the last several years, we have seen more areas in Central Florida flooding that have never flooded before. So that may have you considering a flood insurance policy. Now, there is a difference between government policies and private policies. News 6 investigator Lewis Bolden tells us what we need to know.
I'm News 6 investigator Lewis Bolden. In recent years, we've seen flooding in areas that have never flooded before all over Central Florida. It has prompted more people to get flood insurance, but we found out there can be major differences between a government policy and a private policy. In 2017, Hurricane Irma dumped 13 inches of rain on Port Orange in 24 hours. Camille and Jared Mazzal's home flooded, and they lost everything.
We grew up in Florida.
Okay.
Never once. We've dealt with a lot of hurricanes.
They rebuilt, and 5 years later, in 2022, it happened again. Hurricane Ian flooded their home, and again, they lost it all.
I lived through Hurricane Andrew. I was down in South Florida. That's where I grew up. Never been flooded. Not once until now.
They say the flood was heartbreaking, but dealing with their insurance company has been a challenge of its own.
It's been hard. It's been really hard.
Hard because they have been living in this RV on her in-laws' property with their 2 young children for 2.5 years now, waiting for their insurance claim to pay out so they can rebuild. Across the street, their home has been demolished. Nothing on the property except the pool. The Mazzal's flood insurance is through the National Flood Insurance Program, or NFIP, which is backed by the federal government.
This insurance commissioner has said publicly that he has concerns about NFIP claim handling.
Lisa Miller is a former Florida insurance commissioner and CEO of Lisa Miller and Associates.
It's the federal government. They do the best they can, but there are these cases that are just heart-wrenching.
Miller says NFIP has no claims resolution process like the state requires of private insurers.
I highly recommend, if you have an NFIP policy, ask your agent about going with a private flood insurance company. The coverage is better, the claims handling is better, and of course, it's regulated by the insurance commissioner.
The Mazzal's contractor quoted them $218,000 to replace their 3-bedroom, 3-bath house. They finally reached a settlement with their insurer for $142,000. They will have to supplement the rest themselves, along with the cost of raising the house 12 feet off the ground, which the city is now requiring. 2.5 years and still quite a ways to go.
And I mean, luckily, my husband and I are a great team, and I don't think most people would survive this, or most marriages would survive this.
The family is still waiting on estimates for the pilings they need to raise the home. Then they will start the building process. So they still aren't sure when they'll be back in their home. I'm Lewis Bolden, News 6.
Nearly 20 years after Tropical Storm Faye dumped more than 20 inches in parts of DeBary, neighbors there say that they are still nervous every time we see tropical storms and hurricanes heading their way. And you may recall Matt Austin was there at the Country Club of DeBary last year after Hurricane Milton, when water was getting really close to those homes once again. He headed back to that neighborhood to check in before we start this year's hurricane season.
The water line was.
As Gisela Maxwell invites someone new into her home, she'll tell you there's more than one secret inside. You see, in 2008, before she bought the house, it was one of many homes that looked like this. This line right here.
This is how high your water was.
So you weren't even here, but you can still
I didn't even see that. And then when I found out later on, I said, oh my gosh, what am I doing?
Gisela bought a charming little place on Lower Lake Court in 2011.
It's going to be my forever home.
Yeah.
I was going to move to South Carolina here about a year ago, and then I decided it was too cold up there.
It's too cold everywhere but here.
I know. I love being here. I really do.
In 2008, most of the homes in Lakeside were lake center. Tropical Storm Faye dumped 22 inches of rain on DeBerry, submerging this entire street. Since then, the city installed massive 85 horsepower pumps. They can move 12 million gallons per day. City manager Carmen Rosamonda showed us the system.
And once it gravity feeds into this chamber and gets to a certain height, these pumps automatically turn on and off.
The water is pushed 4 miles away into a burrow pit the city created to store 500 million gallons of excess water. How deep did it get as you were driving through?
3 foot.
Despite the investments, during Milton, we reported yet again as this neighborhood flooded once more.
So we're pumping water out as fast as we possibly can.
Neighbors worry the city didn't pump enough water out of these lakes before the hurricane hit.
Did the city do everything it could to keep that water low?
We did everything we could. Now, after the fact, you learn. Obviously, we learn from after every storm, and we make improvements. It's just that when you have the combination of all the water all the time, I mean, Hurricane Milton dropped 15 inches of rain in 5 hours.
The city says FDOT pumped extra water into the area, which the city did not expect. Rosamonda says better communication and anticipation lowering the lakes will help in the future.
What I want to know from the city is, are they going to take care of us and not wait till the water sits here?
So what would you tell people in Lower Lake Court who experienced last hurricane season and they're worried that a bigger storm or a worse season could get into their house?
Well, a single storm on the normal conditions like right now, well, our emergency management system will be able to handle all that. Depending on how fast the water comes and the volume in which it comes is going to make a determination factor of how successful we are making sure homes are not flooded.
And when we come back, we'll check in with News 6 anchor Bridget Ellison. She's going to tell us what our local hospitals do to prepare to keep patients safe during hurricanes. They train, first responders train year-round for things like that, so we will check in with what those preparations involve. We will also have a check of your forecast. We are expecting more strong storms today, but we do have a chance of rain going down as we move into the weekend. We'll break that down for you coming up in 2 minutes. Welcome back to News 6 Extra. The time now is 12:39. I'm Julie Broughton. Thank you for sticking around with us for your afternoon news and weather update. We'll check in on your forecast for you in just a few minutes. The chance of rain today does remain high with that chance of some strong storms. So we'll break that down for you coming up. But first, we continue our Hurricane Week coverage here on News 6, where we are helping you get prepared for our upcoming storm season, which starts on June 1st. And so what we're talking about next, we're checking with News 6 investigator Mike DeForest. He's going to tell us how to make sure our roof is prepared for hurricanes, and if your roof does get damaged, what are the steps you need to take to make sure you don't get ripped off?
Right now, before a hurricane hits, is the best time to take a walk around your yard and look for anything that could damage your roof, like dead or overhanging tree branches. Trust me, it is no fun paying someone to cut those down if you can't do it yourself, but it will be much more expensive later if one of those branches hits your roof. If you feel comfortable climbing a ladder, you may want to clean out your gutters and take a peek at your roof. If you are missing any tiles or shingles, or if your roof is 20 years or older, now is a good time to reach out to a reputable roofer.
We know there's bad actors out there who will take advantage of consumers at every opportunity.
Lisa Pate is the executive director of the Florida Roofing and Sheet Metal Contractors Association. Her organization can recommend a good roofer. Just go to floridaroof.com. No matter who you hire, make sure the contractor is licensed through the Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulation, or DBPR. You can do that by visiting another website, myfloridalicense.com. Besides verifying that the contractor does have the required state license, you can also look up any complaints. There are good workers out there.
There are absolutely good workers out there. And people that want to take care of you, and you're their neighbor, you're in their community. They want to make sure that you get that product that you deserve.
Pate says you should avoid hiring out-of-state roofers who may not be familiar with Florida's stringent building codes and who may be impossible to find later if you have a problem with your roof. Make sure the contractor has workers' compensation coverage in case they get hurt and liability insurance in case they break something. If your roof gets damaged during a storm, Pate says you should immediately call your insurance company.
A lot of insurance companies have disclaimer within their contract telling you you have to hire one of their contractors, one of their approved contractors.
Roofers will be extremely busy after a storm, so contact a few of them just to get put on their schedule. Once you sign a contract, it's recommended that you pay a third of the money when the job begins, a third at the halfway point, and the remaining third after the roof has passed final inspection. If you're worried your roof will start leaking while waiting for repairs, it's best to let a professional put the tarps on. Don't try to do it yourself. Even if you do not fall off your roof like I would and get hurt, you just don't want to damage it even further with footsteps or nails. Mike DeForest, News 6.
And you can read more of our hurricane prep tips on clickorlando.com/hurricane. First responders train year-round to be prepared for anything emergency-wise, including hurricanes. And of course, hospitals have to keep going and treating patients and taking care of people during these natural disasters. So News 6 anchor Bridget Ellison visited some of our local hospitals to talk about their infrastructure and how they prepare for hurricanes.
When a storm comes, we bring in enough water, enough food, enough diesel fuel, whatever it is, to run this campus autonomously for several days.
Serving as Chief Operating Officer at Advent Health Orlando is a labor of love for Brad Hillman. It's the same hospital he was born in.
Over here you have...
Now he works to make sure it's ready for anything.
Our ORs, just for example, have to maintain a very specific humidity setting, and that can't change during a storm, even if power goes out. So we have over 20 generators on this campus.
And ready for all patients, even babies due during hurricane season.
With the hurricane that we had last year, we delivered 11 babies. We did an open heart surgery during the storm.
UCF Lake Nona Hospital opened in 2021.
You can see we've got big windows.
CEO Wendy Brandon tells me it was designed with healing and safety in mind, right down to Category 4 rated windows.
We wanted lots of natural light. We think light helps in the healing process. But during a hurricane, that can be a little daunting when you have all this glass. So we had to make certain that we could keep our patients safe while also creating the right environment on the inside and the outside.
The fight against flooding is a battle of vigilance, whether it's construction, low-lying areas, or bodies of water nearby. In 2022, floodwaters from Hurricane Ian hit Advent Health Kissimmee and HCA Lake Monroe Hospital.
This last year, we were able to deploy tiger dams to that location. We didn't have any water intrusion at all.
They have put in tiger dams more than once, and it has saved their property and kept access for patients.
As you know, we're rolling into hurricane season and everybody's trying to get their crews ready.
Cheryl Whitmer of U.S. Flood Control, which owns Tiger Dams, tells me the product has gained popularity for its efficacy and range of options.
It's basically a long tube that you fill up with water. They interlock together so you can run them seamlessly for miles, and they're stackable so we can hit almost any height that's required for most floods. The system is engineered to go as high as 32 feet.
Employees trained year-round for emergency events at both hospital systems, pre-assigned to Team A or B, ready to serve and stand by, many times bunking at the hospital until the coast is clear.
And it takes a special kind of person to be in healthcare. We walk away from our families and come here to take care of other people's families. And I'm so proud of the team of people I work with, but really everyone in our industry that are willing to do that.
That was News 6 anchor Bridget Ellison reporting. And once again, if you'd like to check out more of our hurricane prep content, head to clickorlando.com/hurricane. You can find all sorts of resources there, including what you need to be doing right now to make sure you are good to go as we roll into hurricane season starting June 1st. Now, if you've heard some buzz about a storm named Alvin, that is in the Pacific. That is not our storm, but here is the latest. That is the first tropical storm of the season in either basin. So as of 11 o'clock this morning, it had 40-mile-per-hour winds and is tracking off to the northwest. And it looks like it will, by Sunday, just weaken into a remnant area of low pressure. Now, hurricane season in the Atlantic officially starts June 1st. And this is kind of the hotbed as we enter the early part of the season as to where we could see tropical cyclone formation, including in much of the Caribbean. And some of the models are indicating as we head into maybe the second week of June, we could be talking about an area of interest in the Caribbean that, again, would likely not be a concern for us, but we will continue to keep you updated on all of that as we move into hurricane season. Now, here's what we're concerned about today. We are under a level 1 risk, a marginal risk from the Storm Prediction Center of severe weather, strong storms across all of Central Florida. Our biggest concerns will be gusty winds and some small hail. Here's how the radar is shaping up right now. Not much to track out there just yet, but as we head through the next few hours, we'll start to see those storms popping. And I think once again today, they will last well into the evening hours, eventually everything pushing back toward our coast. So here's how that looks on the modeling. By 4 o'clock, still fairly spotty as far as what we're dealing with some showers and heavier activity right along I-95 in St. Johns County that will propagate to the south as all of that continues pushing to the east. By 7 o'clock, we're looking at some heavier activity from around downtown Orlando, stretching back down toward the Turnpike south of St. Cloud and Osceola County. 8 o'clock, much of that activity drifts over into our eastern counties like Volusia County before eventually moving out over the Atlantic. Then through the overnight hours, we will clear things out. But tomorrow, again, we're looking at an elevated rain chance as a front begins to move into our area. That front will be with us this weekend, keeping our rain chances pretty high on Saturday. But we may actually see some drier air moving in behind that by Sunday. Right now, we are sitting at 86 in Orlando, 90 right now in Cocoa Beach, and it is 85 in New Smyrna Beach. Factor in the relative humidity. Here's how it feels. It feels like 106 degrees in the Villages. Feels like 97 right now in Orlando. Today we will go to highs generally in the low, maybe even mid-90s for some of you. 95 in Ocala in the Villages, 93 in Orlando and Kissimmee, and you'll go to 89 in Melbourne. Normal high today is 90. 7-day forecast showing rain chances for today are at 70%. Again, we do have that level 1 risk of seeing some strong to severe storms. Then tomorrow, rain chances stay at 60%. That's where we leave it for Saturday, but we're trimming it back to 20% for Sunday, and then we begin to see the rain chances creeping back up as we head into next week. Overnight lows stay generally in the 70s with a few upper 60s mixed in there. We will have much more on your full forecast coming up for you starting on News 6 at 4. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today on News 6 Extra. We certainly do appreciate it, and we'll see you at 4.